Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we are doing exactly that, diving into a whole stack of sources to bring you the really important updates, the key trends, and insights from the world of AI right now.
Yeah, think of this as your distilled guide to what's actually happening. We're covering a lot.
We are the job market debate, global competition, what the big companies are up to.
The rise of AI agents, which is fascinating, but also the tricky parts of actually building this stuff, plus safety and risks. It's moving fast.
Incredibly fast.
Yeah.
Okay, let's try and unpack some of this. We pretty much have to start with the biggest question on everyone's mind. What's AI going to do to jobs? There was a stark warning just recently.
Yes, Dario Amodei, the CEO of Anthropic, he gave a pretty blunt take. He's predicting a potential 10% to 20% jump in unemployment.
10 to 20%, wow. And over what time frame?
Within just 5 years. He
Wow.
attributes it directly to AI's impact.
Significant. Did he say which jobs are most vulnerable?
Yeah, his focus was squarely on entry-level white-collar jobs. Think finance, law, consulting, those kinds of roles.
Okay. And he added something quite chilling, didn't he?
He did. He was quoted saying, most of them are unaware that this is about to happen.
Unaware. That really adds a sense of urgency. But this isn't the only perspective, right? Mark Cuban chimed in.
Right. Cuban pushes back hard against that widespread job loss narrative. He brings up historical parallels like, how word processors displaced secretaries, but ultimately new jobs emerged.
So his argument is basically technology changes jobs, but it doesn't eliminate employment overall. New roles appear.
Exactly. He said something like, new companies with new jobs will come from AI and increase total employment.
It's that classic tension, historical adaptation versus maybe something different this time. Some sources do suggest this change feels
faster, harder to adapt to. That's the phrase some are using.
right. So maybe the speed is the real kicker this time around, questioning if we can adapt as quickly as before.
That seems to be the core of the concern, yeah. The pace.
Okay, shifting gears a bit, but related to that speed is the global AI race, particularly U.S. versus China.
Oh, yeah. That's heating up intensely. China's making major moves. Remember DeepSeek earlier this year? Their open source R1 model really shook things up.
It did, didn't it? Outperformed some big Western models on certain benchmarks.
And it even caused a brief wobble in NVIDIA's stock price. Shows how sensitive the market is.
And they've iterated since then.
They have. Their upgraded R1 is a reasoning model now, and it's ranking, pretty close behind some of OpenAI's top models.
So the competition is real. Jensen Huang from NVIDIA basically said China already has AI, right?
He did. The question is not whether China will have AI. It already does. That sums it up.
Given the semiconductor restrictions, what's China's strategy look like?
It seems to be heavily focused on efficiency. Companies like Baidu, Tencent, they're pushing hard to improve AI performance without relying on the absolute cutting-edge chips they might not have access to. It's driving self-reliance.
Making more out of what they have.
Yeah.
Smart. Okay, so that's the global backdrop. Let's zoom in on some specific company news. Anthropic, besides the CEO's forecast, had a busy week.
They really did. First off, Reddit filed a lawsuit against them.
Oh, what's the claim?
Accusing Anthropic of scraping Reddit content to train Claude, their AI, without permission or, paying for it.
That hits right at the core of the AI training data debate. Huge implications.
Absolutely fundamental. And then, on a totally different track, they made a big push into the U.S. government space.
Nice.
They launched Claude Gov. It's an AI model specifically tailored for U.S. National Security Agency.
National security. That requires a lot of trust.
Definitely. And they seem to be leaning into that. They appointed a national security expert to their governing trust, too, which they position as a mechanism prioritizing safety over profit.
Interesting positioning. Sort of the responsible AI provider for sensitive areas. And there was a competitive move, too, involving Windsurf.
Yeah, this was interesting. Anthropic cut off Claude access for Windsurf, which is a coding platform.
And the timing was notable.
It happened right after news surfaced that OpenAI might be looking to acquire Windsurf for, $3 billion.
So Anthropic potentially pulling their tech before it ends up with a major competitor. Makes sense.
Seems like a direct competitive maneuvering.
Okay, speaking of OpenAI, they had a pretty significant legal development concerning data, right?
Yes, this could affect a lot of users. A court ordered OpenAI to preserve and segregate all ChatGPT output log data and also deleted chats that would normally be wiped.
Hold on, all logs and deleted chats?
Yeah.
For everyone?
Well, not quite everyone, but a huge chunk. It impacts free users, plus Pro Team subscribers,
Okay.
and also API users, unless they have a specific zero data retention agreement, what they call ZDR.
So if you're on a standard plan or using the API without that ZDR deal, your data, even stuff you thought was deleted, is being held.
Correct. Enterprise, A2 customers, and those ZDR API users are exempt. But for the majority, yes, that data is under preservation order due to a lawsuit.
That could be a real sticking point for businesses using the standard API, couldn't it?
Yeah.
Especially with sensitive information.
For sure. Some already see it as a competitive disadvantage for OpenAI in the API space. Might push some towards providers with clear data handling guarantees, perhaps.
Adds another layer of complexity for users. Okay, beyond the big players, what's the vibe in the AI startup investment world?
It's getting riskier and more complicated, according to some sources, especially for growth stage startups.
Why is that?
Well, startups are hitting that growth stage faster than ever, which sounds good, but the tech moves so quickly that a hot company can be unseated in a few months by the next new thing.
So high potential, but also really high volatility. The ground shifts quickly.
Exactly. But despite that risk, we saw an absolutely massive funding round this week.
Yeah. Who's that?
Cursor AI. They make an AI-powered code editor. They just raised $900 million.
Wow, 900 million. What's their valuation now?
A staggering $9.9 billion. Nearly $10 billion for an AI code editor.
That's incredible. Really shows where investors see huge potential transforming software development itself.
Absolutely. And, on a related note, that kind of activity is apparently helping fuel San Francisco's office market recovery. These AI startups need space.
A tangible local impact. That Cursor AI funding kind of leads us into the next big area, AI agents, moving beyond just chatbots.
Yeah, this is arguably one of the hottest frontiers right now. People are even debating what an agent really is. Solomon Hykes, Docker's founder, had a memorable definition recently.
What was it?
He described an AI agent as an LLM wrecking its environment in a loop.
Wrecking its environment, hopefully productively.
Yes, that's the idea. It's about an AI using tools, taking actions in an environment, digital or physical, observing results, and then looping back to adapt its strategy to achieve a goal. It's not just talking, it's doing.
And this is moving into actual business applications now.
Definitely. Salesforce is pushing hard with their Agentforce platform. They're framing it as AI generating revenue directly.
How are they pitching that?
They talk about deploying autonomous digital workforces, like specific AI sales agents that can handle initial outreach, do follow-ups, qualify leads, basically automating the repetitive parts of sales.
Freeing up human salespeople for the more complex stuff, like closing deals.
Precisely. Let the AI handle the volume, humans handle the high-touch strategy.
Are there other examples of these task-specific agents launching?
Yes, Digitate just released new AI agents specifically for IT operations and SRE's site reliability engineers. They also have AI assistants for CIOs.
What's the goal there?
They're aiming for ticketless operations, using AI to automate problem resolution, reducing the need for manual help desk tickets.
Tackling common IT pain points.
Okay.
Beyond these full agents, we're also seeing smarter features in existing tools, right? Like text-to-speech.
11 Labs just launched 11v3. They're really pushing for expressiveness, adding things like realistic whispering, laughing sounds, support for over 70 languages, and even a function specifically for handling dialogue between multiple voices more naturally.
Making AI voices sound much less robotic, more nuanced.
That's the goal. And Google's adding more automation too, with Gemini.
Right. They're rolling out scheduled actions in the Gemini app for Pro and Ultra subscribers. So you can tell the AI to do something at a specific time.
Like setting reminders, sending messages, maybe running routines automatically, more personal automation.
Okay, shifting to specific industries, healthcare and research seem to be big areas for AI application.
Huge potential there. There's a really interesting collaboration between Sandbox AQ and Stand Up to Cancer. They're using something called large quantitative models, or LQMs.
LQMs. How are they different from the LLMs, the language models we usually hear about?
Good question. LLMs are trained on text, right? To understand and generate language. LQMs are different. They're built on physics and chemistry data. They use scientific principles to simulate complex systems, like how molecules interact.
So it's AI for simulating the physical world, not just language.
Exactly. And Sandbox AQ and Stand Up to Cancer are using them to speed up cancer research, specifically aiming for earlier detection and better treatments by simulating molecular behavior to, say, screen potential drug candidates much faster. They've already had success using this approach in neurodegenerative disease research.
That sounds incredibly powerful, using AI to accelerate fundamental science. Any other health examples?
Yeah, another partnership, Elucidata and Sapien Biosciences. They're using AI for data harmonization, basically cleaning up and standardizing complex biological data from biobanks.
Why is that important?
It helps maximize the value you can get from that data, leads to more precise patient insights, potentially lower drug discovery costs, just by making the research data more usable and consistent.
Getting more out of the data we already have. And for the finance folks, there's a new tool.
Perplexity integrated SEC data, they're calling it an investor's AI sidekick. Lets you use AI to query and analyze financial filings, regulatory documents, that sort of thing.
Making financial data easier to digest. Okay, lots of applications emerging. Now let's turn to our startup spotlight. Today it's on Codia AI.
Right, Codia AI. They're presented as an AI design assistant aimed at really changing creative workflows for designers and developers.
What's the core function? What problem are they solving?
They basically bridge that gap between design and code. You give it design ideas from Figma, Sketch, tools like that, and it turns them into production-ready front-end code.
Automating the handoff, that's often a bottleneck. What kind of results are they claiming?
The numbers are pretty eye-catching. They say it slashes design time by 60%, boosts iteration speed 3x, and increases project throughput by 40%.
Those are significant productivity claims. What features enable that?
They highlight things like high AI accuracy in understanding the design elements, the obvious time savings from automation, support for multiple design formats, and they also emphasize privacy protection for the designs users upload.
Makes sense. And who benefits most here?
Well, designers can work faster, maybe explore more options. Developers get usable code quicker, less manual translation from designs. And project managers, they benefit because projects potentially move smoother and faster. The idea is freeing up humans for the creative thinking, not the repetitive coding.
A clear example of AI targeting a specific workflow pain point. Okay, so we've seen these exciting tools and applications, but let's inject a dose of reality. What are the challenges people face when actually building these AI systems, especially agents?
Yeah, talking to people actually doing this work, you hear that the hype often glosses over some major hurdles. For instance, just figuring out what's a true AI agent versus, say, a sophisticated automation or orchestration tool like NEN is sometimes discussed in this context can be tricky. Orchestration is vital, but it's not the same as autonomous agency.
So making these things reliable and predictable is hard.
Very. Key lessons are emerging. First, you need really solid infrastructure underneath. Second, agent behavior isn't always predictable, even with good design. They can surprise you.
Not always in a good way, I imagine.
Potentially, yeah. Evaluating how well they're doing is also tough. Often needs a lot of manual checking, A/B testing. And critically, people are learning you absolutely need robust stop conditions and guardrails.
To prevent them from going off the rails or getting stuck in loops,
Yeah,
like that wrecking the environment idea, turning back.
exactly. Without safety nets, agents can waste resources, make mistakes, or just loop endlessly. And maybe the biggest takeaway from practitioners, use cases beat demos. Meaning, a flashy demo is one thing, but actually solving a real business problem reliably is what matters. An AI that works consistently, even if less spectacularly, is more valuable than one that's amazing sometimes, but unreliable.
That use cases beat demos point feels really important for actual business adoption, which brings us to the risks, safety, and those adoption hurdles.
Right. A big one is still AI hallucination. The AI just making stuff up but sounding confident. The risk isn't just that it happens, it's the belief that just adding some guardrails makes it totally enterprise ready for critical tasks. That might be too optimistic.
And the consequences can be serious, especially in sensitive areas.
Absolutely. Like a Stanford study warned about using AI therapists. They found these systems can misinterpret crisis situations or even reinforce harmful stereotypes because of biases in their training data.
That's a scary prospect. What of the bigger picture, the AI control problem?
Yeah, the concern about systems becoming too complex for us to fully understand or control, maybe even writing their own code in ways we didn't intend.
Is the fear that AI turns evil, like in the movies?
The more grounded concern discussed in these sources isn't usually about malevolence, but misalignment. The worry is that AI optimizes for a goal we gave it, but does so in a way that has unintended harmful side effects because the goal wasn't specified perfectly or did include the right constraints. It highlights the need for super clear goals and robust safety measures.
Misalignment, not malice. That feels more plausible. How is AI impacting security right now?
Attackers are definitely using it. They're creating malware that changes itself to avoid detection, automating network scanning, finding vulnerabilities faster, basically speeding up their side of the arms
The
race.
AI is being used on both sides, offense and defense.
Yes. And it means that even with AI defenses, the human in the loop remains essential. Human oversight and intuition are still critical in security. AI helps, but it doesn't replace the need for human experts.
Okay, looking at businesses trying to adopt AI more broadly, are they seeing success?
It's a mixed bag. Many companies are actually struggling to show a real return on investment from AI. One report found that something like 42% of generative AI projects get abandoned.
42%, that's really high. Why?
It suggests just buying AI tools isn't enough. Success seems to come from carefully integrating AI into specific workflows to solve defined problems, not just treating it like magic dust. You need the right use case.
Find the nail before you swing the AI hammer. Are there differences across regions or industries?
Well, one report mentioned U.S. financial firms seem to be lagging behind counterparts in Europe, the Middle East, and Africa in using AI for compliance work specifically.
Interesting. But government is moving ahead in some areas.
Yes, the FDA, for example, launched an internal AI tool called ELSA to help its employees search agency documents more effectively and securely. So adoption is happening, just maybe unevenly.
And finally, maybe a positive development related to the data needed to train AI.
Yeah, the Common Pile. This is being touted as the first big text data set built entirely from openly licensed sources.
Why is that significant?
It offers an alternative to just scraping the web, which is full of copyrighted material and causing legal headaches. An open, legally clear data set could be really valuable for future AI development, especially for open source models.
Addresses a major bottleneck and legal risk.
Yeah.
So we really covered a spectrum today. Starkly different views on AI's job impact, the fierce global competition, big moves from players like Anthropic and OpenAI, the exciting potential but also the practical challenges of AI agents.
Plus, those critical risks around hallucinations, control, security, and the real struggles businesses face in getting value, it's not just moving fast, it's touching everything.
It really is. From national security and fundamental science down to how you might write code or interact with customer service. The pace feels relentless. So maybe the thought to leave you with today is this. With AI weaving itself into the fabric of, well, everything and changing so rapidly, how do we as individuals, as businesses, as a society make sure we're ready? How do we adapt not just to what's coming, but to the profound shifts already underway?